Hey guys, good morning. It's me again, and I am so embarrassed because there I was just talking away for the Universal Forum for Mantra Monday, and I had this background music going on without realizing it, and so you guys couldn't hear a bloody thing. So, yes, I am learning this new technology and I apologize. I'm going to have to set up a dummy page for this dummy here in order to test these things ahead of time. There's a number of layers apparently that you can have, and you want to make sure that you don't have too many layers of sound and so forth going on at the same time. Otherwise, your speaking will be obliterated. So, to Matthew Patrick Hegum, who was kind enough to join the live stream or share the live stream into his peeps, I have deleted the other one because it was unintelligible. All right, so before I get over to the Instagram one that is supposed to start in a half an hour, here I am trying to make it up to you to deliver Mantra Monday. Okay, so the name of this chapter, again, is the Universal Form. This is a chapter 11. We finished chapter 10, the opulence of the Absolute, last week. And I'm going to read 3 verses in Sanskrit today because this chapter lends itself to that. It's a very dynamic chapter. So, again, it is a continuation of the conversation between Prince Arjuna and Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. And I'm using the word or the appellation Bhagavan because Bhagavan means opulent. And of course, the Lord is opulent because he possesses everything and is all-knowing, all-beautiful, possesses all strength, all knowledge, and of course, all renunciation. Okay, so let me just get into it here. Arjuna uvāca, mad-anugrahāya paramam, guhyam adhyātma-saṁjñitam, tvayoktaṁ vacas tena, moho vigato mama. So now I'm going to sing it. Arjuna uvāca, mad-anugrahāya paramam, guhyam adhyātma-saṁjñitam, tvayoktaṁ vacas tena, moho vigato mama. Translation. Arjuna uvāca, Arjuna said, mat-anugrahāya, just to show me favor. Paramam, supreme. Guhyam, confidential subject. Adhyātma, spiritual. Saṁjñitam, in the matter of. Yat, what. Tvayā, by you. Uktam, said. Vacaḥ, words. Tena, by that. Moha, illusion. Ayam, this. Vigataḥ, is removed. Mama, my. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. Purport. This chapter reveals Krishna as the cause of all causes. He is even the cause of the Mahā-viṣṇu, from whom the material universes emanate. Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the source of all incarnations. That has been completely explained in the last chapter. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a mere human being, as a friend of his, but as the source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has such a great friend as Krishna. But now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as the source of everything, others may not. So in order to establish Krishna's divinity for all, he is requesting Krishna in this chapter to show his universal form. Actually, when one sees the universal form of Krishna, one becomes frightened, like Arjuna. But Krishna is so kind that after showing it, he converts himself again into his original form. Arjuna agrees to what Krishna has several times said. Krishna is speaking to him just for his benefit, so Arjuna acknowledges that all this is happening to him by Krishna's grace. He is now convinced that Krishna is the cause of all causes and is present in everyone's heart as the super soul. So this amazing image that we've got as the background today, this is the artistic rendition of Krishna displaying his universal form to Arjuna. So as I pull it up here, you can see here is Arjuna with hands folded, and there is Krishna kind of doing a Vanna White, holding up his hand and saying, behold, here's my universal form, see my universal form. And all these personalities, all these images, all these things that are here, you even get a sense of, a little bit of the cosmos. There's the rainbow, and you get a little sense of the Milky Way. This is the universal form of Krishna that he is revealing to Arjuna upon Arjuna's request. So why is this? This is because there are a lot of people that claim to be God. The litmus test, if someone says to you that they are God, is that ask them to kindly display their universal form to you. That is the test. So, while we are certainly made in the image of God, and we possess a lot of the qualities of God, we are not God, because we are not the same in quantity. So as we have gone through the previous chapter, the opulence of the absolute, you'll remember from last week that Krishna says at the end of it that this is just but a spark of my splendor. I have given you some examples, 42 examples in fact, through the verses of how you can see me while you're living your day-to-day life. He has given the example of him being present in different seasons, like spring, like in the month of Kartik, November, December. He has given the example of how his eyes are the sun and the moon. Of bodies of water, he is the ocean. Of aquatics, he is the shark. In women, he is beauty, memory, and intelligence. He is the strength of the strong. He has explained how he is present as a witness, as manifest as one of the Adityas, right? So we've talked about Varuna, we've talked about Vishnu, we've talked about this presence of the Lord manifest as an aspect of the sun in witnessing contracts, for example, and negotiations, and so on and so forth, in so many ways. But as we say, talk is cheap. So here, even though Arjuna is convinced, he wants to establish for people that come in the future, like you and me, that it is true that Krishna really is the source of all incarnations, and that he is the supreme controller, and that he is really God. So this is why Arjuna is asking Krishna to show his universal form in this way. Also, it's saying here that when one sees the universal form of Krishna, one becomes frightened. So we're very small. And even if we just see one thing, like the aurora borealis, we become, we are in awe in a thing like that. But if we're seeing another aspect of the Lord's energy and the Lord's power, like fire, right? Like wildfires, or some of the destructive elements or energies of the Lord, that is there just as sometimes as chastisement, or just the way the world is, the way the material world eventually is destroyed, the way things are temporary here. We become frightened by that because all of a sudden, our friend, right, the face of the person that we have that one-on-one relationship with has receded, and now we're only seeing the energy without the energetic. But as Prabhupada says here, this is just a temporary display that Krishna is showing to Arjuna, and that he will resume his two-handed form, his original form that Arjuna is accustomed to seeing. Now this is interesting because this kind of display happens a couple of times. There is that other manifestation of this aspect of Krishna's universality when Mother Yashoda is chasing the Lord in his mischievous little boy form as Damodar, because he's gone in and he has distributed butter to the monkeys, and he's also broken the pots. And so, of course, Mother Yashoda is not very happy about this, and she's thinking to herself, I have to discipline my child. I can't just let him run amok and do whatever. So she decides to punish him in such a way that he'll learn his lesson, but so she can also keep an eye on him. So her plan is to actually sit Krishna in the kitchen where she is trying to cook and keep an eye on the milk that she's boiling on the stove, and just take a little rope and just, tie him up there so he stays put. So this is why the Lord is called Damodar. So in the process of trying to catch the Lord, to be able to do that, she has great difficulty doing that because 3-year-olds can run very fast. But the wind-up is she is eventually allowed to catch the Lord to do this. But while she is doing this, she has difficulty, putting the rope, around his belly, right? I mean, every time she tries to tie the rope around his belly, it's always short, So finally, she's become exhausted, doing this. And she's thinking to herself, wait, how is this possible? This child is minute. He's just a little boy. I've measured the rope. Why can't I get the rope around his belly? Why can't I tie it around his belly? So these little games, that the Lord plays with his devotees to demonstrate who is really in control, who is in a playful way, and also to elicit this kind of effort and this kind of devotion from his intimate associates. So eventually, the Lord allows her to put the rope around his belly. And, linked to this pastime is actually Krishna, Mother Yashoda looking inside the Lord's mouth. And when she looks inside the Lord's mouth, because she suspects that he's eaten some dirt, how kids are, they'll put anything in their mouth. She goes to open his mouth to get the dirt out. All of a sudden, she finds herself looking at the entire cosmos, She's looking at the stars, she's looking at the oceans, she's looking at the seas, she's looking at the elements that make up this material universe, and then she sees the earth, and then she sees herself looking into Krishna's mouth, and she's like, am I tripping? So this is that is one time that the Lord displays his universal form in this way, or gives a glimpse, of his true majesty and his true power outside of this very intimate, loving relationship that they're having. And here, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where this conversation has taken us through all the different emotions and all the different, the trial that Arjuna is going through, because remember, he is on the battlefield facing his family members. He has tried to avoid, and his family members have tried to avoid, things coming to this for a very, very long time. But eventually, because it's his duty as a Kshatriya to protect, he eventually has to come face to face and is about to do battle with his cousin brothers, and most painfully with his surrogate grandfather Bhishma on the opposite side. And so this divine conversation has enlightened Arjuna about the difference between matter and spirit, the nature of time, and also how to remember Krishna through, as I mentioned already, through different aspects of himself in the material world, and also how a yogi thinks, how he sits, how he sleeps, and so on and so forth. So, here, to get to the next verse, Bhavap yayo hibhutanam shrutau vishtarasho maya tvatva kamala patraksha madhatmyam atpichavyayam. I'll sing that. Bhavap yayo hibhutanam shruta vishtarasho maya tvata kamala patraksha mahatmyam atpichavyayam. Okay. Bhava, appearance, apyayao, disappearance, he, certainly, bhutanam, of all living entities, shrutau, hath been heard, vishtarashaha, in detail, maya, by me, tvata, from you, kamalapatra aksha, O lotus-eyed one, mahatmyam, glories, api, also, cha, and, avyayam, inexhaustible. O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized your inexhaustible glories. Arjuna addresses Lord Krishna as lotus-eyed. Krishna's eyes appear just like the petals of a lotus flower out of his joy, for Krishna has assured him in the previous chapter, Aham Krishnasya Jagata Prabhava Pralayastata. I am the source of the appearance and disappearance of this entire material manifestation. Arjuna has heard of this from the Lord in detail. Arjuna further knows that in spite of his being the source of all appearances and disappearances, he is aloof from them. As the Lord has said in the 9th chapter, he is all-pervading, yet he is not personally present everywhere. That is the inconceivable opulence of Krishna, which Arjuna admits that he has thoroughly understood. Alright, so just to recap, basically we're in good hands here. So the Lord is, Arjuna is saying, I've heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity. So, in other words, the cycle of birth and death, how it goes, right? How we become incarnate in this atmosphere, how we go through our lifespan. If we're fortunate enough, we get to grow and we get to be old or experience that old age. Hopefully we are experiencing some wisdom at that point. And then eventually how this body dwindles and dies and the soul moves on. And Krishna is saying, I'm the source of the appearance and disappearance of this entire material manifestation. So remember that as Mahā-viṣṇu, Krishna has nothing to do but enjoy. He is expanding himself as Mahā-viṣṇu. Mahā-viṣṇu is that aspect, is that Purusha of the Lord, whose function, it's a functional aspect of the Lord, to create the material universe, and not only to create the material universes by his glance and by his breathing. All the material universes expand from his breathing, but he impregnates all the material universes, just by his glance. And that's how things are animated. So then the jivas, we, you, me, we enter into that in order to live out the particular desires that we have. And then again, when it is time to wind down the universe, it is withdrawn into the body of the Lord, and all the jivas are withdrawn back into the body of the Lord, at least those who have not become self-realized and who have managed to use their minds and intelligence and their hearts to become liberated, to get out of this very elaborate, sophisticated, and detailed prison. So, it says here that Arjuna has heard of this from the Lord in detail. Arjuna further knows that in spite of his being the source of all appearances and disappearances, he is aloof from them. Okay, that which I have just explained. Now, the mantra number 3 for today, or text 3, goes like this. Evamitad adhyātma-saṁjñitam atmanam parameshvara drashtum ichami te rupam aishvaryam purushottama. Evam etad adhyātma-saṁjñitam atmanam parameshvara drashtum ichami te rupam aishvaram purushottama. Evam, thus, etat, this, yata, as it is, ata, have spoken, tvam, you, atmanam, yourself, parama ishvara, O Supreme Lord, drashtum, to see, ichami, I wish, te, your, rupam, form, aishvaram, divine, purusha uttama, O best of personalities. Translation, O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So this verse is very clear. Arjuna is addressing Krishna, and he's saying, I know that this two-handed form of yours is your supreme form. I know that this two-handed form of yours, this transcendental form of yours, is the source of all incarnations. That this is your actual position, as you have described yourself. But I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. I want to see that universal form that we see right here behind us in this beautiful piece of artwork. Okay, so the purport. The Lord said that because he entered into the material universe by his personal representation, the cosmic manifestation has been made possible and is going on. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he is inspired by the statements of Krishna. But in order to convince others in the future who may think that Krishna is an ordinary person, Arjuna desires to see him actually in his universal form, to see how he is acting from within the universe, although he is apart from it. Arjuna's addressing the Lord as Purushottama is also significant. Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is present within Arjuna himself. Therefore, he knows the desire of Arjuna and he can understand that Arjuna has no special desire to see him in his universal form, for Arjuna is completely satisfied to see him in his personal form of Krishna. But the Lord can understand also that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to convince others. Arjuna did not have any personal desire for confirmation. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criterion, for in the future there would be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. People, therefore, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show his universal form to confirm his claim to the people. So that's also very clear. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So there you have it. It's pretty simple. There are a lot of false prophets out there. There are a lot of people who claim to be God. But, again, if someone is claiming to be God, then you should ask them to show you their universal form, right? If they can't show you their universal form, then they're not God. So it's as simple as that. That is the purpose of this whole chapter. That even though, Arjuna is perfectly situated in this relationship with Krishna, he is taking the role of every man. He is establishing for people that are skeptical, but also for people that are vulnerable, for people that are easily misled, what the criteria, what the standard actually is. And this is the standard which we will be discussing in the verses that are coming up next week. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to read the verses in batches. I'm going to read next week text 4, text 5, and text 6. And I think that's a better way to go through chapter 11. What else can I say about this verse right now? I'm just appreciating, the friendship here between Arjuna and between Krishna, and the wonderful way in which Arjuna has been moved throughout this whole process that he has been going through in facing a very, very tough situation, going through the process of grief, where he is there trying to perform his duty, but he is simply overwhelmed by it, and then gradually being taken through the understanding of what is the difference between matter and spirit, what is the qualification of a teacher in spiritual subject matters, the nature of time, the nature of karma, the difference between matter and spirit, and then also how the Supreme Spirit manifests himself within this material world in order for us to see him, for us to be able to appreciate him, so it's not just something abstract. Okay, so I'm going to end the stream now because I got to hop over to Instagram and do this over there. Thank you for being with me here today. I apologize for the earlier technical flub, and please leave a comment below and let me know if you have any questions. I will see you next Monday here on Facebook for the live stream. And I'm also trying something out in beta to see about you getting reminders for Mantra Monday, which is the place where we frame our week in transcendental subject matter in order to, quote, raise our vibrations and be able to give ourselves a little protective or spiritual coating to be able to navigate our way through this adventure called life. Okay, namaste.